So for too long now, you sluts have been hounding me and badgering me and another animal adjectiving me into trying to do these logical fallacy videos. So I figured, what the hell, I may as well sit down and do one. Fallacy Friday, I'm calling it. Most likely it won't be a weekly thing, but who the hell knows? If you guys enjoy it and you rate it a lot and it gets a decent number of views of people who are enjoying it, I have no reason to not do it, you know? Alright, so let's get into it. The first one is going to be the appeal to authority. Now, essentially, the argument here with it that contains the fallacy is made up of two antecedents and then the consequent. And the two antecedents are what build up, and then if you use this logical fallacy and don't use pure logic, then you're going to draw the false conclusion from those antecedents that leads to the fallacious consequent. Basically, the first step is you claim that someone is an authority on subject A. Let's say it like this. So, Bill O'Reilly is an expert on bullshit, okay? That is the claim. He is an expert. He is the tippity top, the upper echelon of bullshit knowers. He knows how to spew out some fatty bullshit and allow dripping morsels of feces to come out of his mouth at every juncture. He's an expert in that, all right? Second antecedent is Bill O'Reilly says Obama is full of shit. And because he is an expert on shit, this must be true, all right? And then, of course, I included the consequent at the end there. The third, therefore that is true. So you give Bill O'Reilly this false status of being the lord of the shit, which, you know, he's not. He is a piece of shit, but he's not somehow, he doesn't have some expert on bullshit that none of the rest of us do. And then to give him that free range to then judge Obama and call him full of shit, while consequently referring back to his supposed knowledge of shit, is fallacious, because you're building him up with criteria that actually don't help him. He's not a real expert in anything. It's all, it's not substantive, so to speak. So another example of this would be the Pope is an expert in the afterlife. He says that I'm going to go to hell, and therefore that's true, because he's an expert in the afterlife. I'm appealing to his authority. I'm saying that you may not trust me when, you know, that priest of Ra says that I'm going to spend eternity in the underworld at the river Styx. But, you know, that priest is an expert on that kind of shit, so you better believe him. And when he says it, that lends that contention a little bit more weight, just by virtue of the fact that he is a priest. And so you kind of take it and you manipulate it and you give people more credit than they're due in a situation. That's essentially a brief synopsis of the appeal to authority, where you look at someone and you realize that their case is not viable, and that if you know anything about argumentation, if I say an argument, it's going to be equally correct or incorrect no matter who says it. But that's why you use appeal to authority, is because even if I'm spewing an incorrect argument, you put that argument in the mouth of Obama, and a lot more people are going to believe it, because he has attained this level of authority that some people perceive as allowing him to escape the limits of logic, I guess. That sounded kind of Bill Nye right there, but whatever. Another example of this is my 10th grade creationist biology teacher is an expert biologist. That's the claim. He says creationism is a total fact and that evolution is silly. That was his claim. And because he's an expert on biology, clearly that's true. Now, you can make the case that he knows a little bit about biology, but you also are giving him a false sense of authority by saying that his false expertise in creationism is somehow giving him the ability to say that a demonstrable science like evolution is discountable. Okay? So I'm trying to convey this here to you. Maybe you guys are learning something, all right? Another example, you could say, my pastor is an expert in magically knowing when a zygote becomes a human being. My pastor says that a zygote is a human being immediately after conception. Therefore, abortion is wrong. See, you're giving the pastor undue ability to judge a situation like when a zygote or when this cluster of cells becomes a sentient being. You're giving him free range on that, and then you're giving him the ability to say that it's wrong based on no objective criteria or empiricism whatsoever. And if I were to say that, and I were to say, I believe that the cluster of cells in a woman's uterus, that becomes a human being at 4 months and 15 days. Now, I don't have anything to back that up, and people are going to look at me and say, America Durka, you're crazy. You're just some lunatic on the internet who shouts about things that make no sense. And I say, yeah, you're right. And they're going to say, I'm not going to believe you. You don't have any authority on the subject. Now, same thing with this pastor. His authority is all fake, and it's ridiculous, and it doesn't actually have any bearing on the real world. But because people are willing to trust in that, it gives him more credence than he's due. So all of this to say that is the appeal to authority fallacy. Now, I was going to do it where I just gave examples and tried to explain it and articulate it well enough, and I hope I have. If you have any constructive criticisms or suggestions about this is my first episode of this. So please feel free to give me some nice criticisms, and you can even throw in some like "you're a faggot, go to hell" kind of stuff, because that's fine. A little bit of that is like pepper on a steak. It just makes it a little bit better. Just to know that not everyone who watches me loves me. Got to have a few haters out there. But I decided I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Now, how can you combat this, okay? The first thing you want to do about these logical fallacies is you don't want to be that ass clown who in the middle of a debate, a kind of not a real debate, like if you are in the middle of a serious debate with someone that's being recorded, then you will want to mention the name of the fallacy and how they're abusing it. But if you're just in a friendly argument with someone, you don't want to be that, douche fuck who's like, oh, you just use appeal to authority, I'm smarter than you, like shit like that, because that's not actually going to get you anywhere. That's just going to turn them off and make them feel like, wow, I really am feeling really defensive right now. That makes me uncomfortable. So the best way you can kind of target it without coming out and just calling the person an idiot and being really rude to them is you first of all, you want to ask for the person's credentials, because once again, this person that they're referencing, this may not be a logical fallacy. Now, if Neil deGrasse Tyson made a claim about astrophysics and I used that and I referenced him, he is a legitimate, certified, through the scientific flames of glory, like he has been in the scientific community for so long, under scrutiny, really heavily critiqued papers and empirical writings, and so he is the kind of person that you can reference in his field of specialty, Now, if I were to say, Neil deGrasse Tyson said this about, evolutionary psychology, now that's kind of different, because obviously scientist isn't some magical overarching term for every branch of science. So in that instance, you have to keep in mind that the person that they're referencing, ask for their credentials. If they're a legitimate scientist who has a lot of peer-reviewed papers and works, then yeah, it's probably a lot more credible than if they say, oh yeah, this homeless man on the street or this pastor on the corner of this road yelled it at me while he waved across at me and threw water at me out of an old Windex bottle or whatever the hell. So that's what you can do there. You want to demand evidence, obviously. If they try to use a religious figure as like the Pope or a pastor or someone who uses any kind of religious claim, the best way you can combat that is to bring up another religious figure. One of my favorites is someone named Sachi Sai Baba. He is still alive right now in India, and millions of people think that he is the living God. And now when they make claims about it, I can merely say, no, Sachi Sai Baba said this, and he is an expert in the afterlife, and he is an expert in spirituality, and that negates your claim, because if we're going to go on, realism, he's still alive. He has followers right now, the followers that can go out and touch him and see him. And then it becomes a battle of them trying to outmatch your supernatural claim with their supernatural claim, and if they're an intelligent person, they'll quickly realize, okay, this is going to get us nowhere. I realize now the falsity of my claim and trying to base empiricism on something as subjective as religion or something like that. To avoid this on your part, because, everyone can fall into this, it's very easy, especially since it's so difficult to know who is credible enough and who can be truly defined as an expert in their respective fields. To avoid it, cite sources and objective studies, and really just try to avoid name dropping anywhere. If you're having to drop names all over the place, chances are it's not a very good argument in the first place, because you're trying to impress people and trying to be a little bit flamboyant and show off, and that's not how you want to do it. So whenever possible, just stick with the empiricism. If it's a good argument and it's possible, or I guess not empiricism if you're not debating something like science, just stick with logic and reason, and you're going to have no reason to even reach out and grasp for names out of some scientific hub or religious hub and just try and bolster your point, because the truth will come out on its own. It doesn't need a bunch of names surrounding it. So that's all I've got to say about it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a rating, and if you didn't, please leave a rating but the other direction, down. And yeah, I love you and have a great night.
Mission accomplished. Good work. Kill confirmed.